Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Rosie. I am a pharmacist turned six-figure calligrapher, and today I have someone who is amazing. She is a member of the Craft Academy. Her name is Lisa McCaig from Beautiful Day Calligraphy. She's up in San Diego, and she actually came onto our coaching call a couple of days ago and said, this is the only creative adventure that has actually worked for me. And for me, that is probably the most important statement I have ever heard in my coaching career. So I knew I just had to have her on our interview today. For anyone who has not heard about the Craft Academy yet, it is a step-by-step program that is designed to take your business from frustrated into flourishing using your unique story and methodology. My goal with this whole program is to help calligraphers bypass all of the mistakes and time wasted so that you can actually build a life that you truly desire. So without further ado, here's Lisa!
Thank you so much for having me, Rosie. I'm absolutely humbled by you even asking me. Part of the adventure with TCA is, like you just said, being you and your creative person and whoever you are, bringing that to the table. And so when you texted me and said, hey, you were really impactful in the coaching call today, I had to think about, what did I say that made you, right? I don't know. I was just being me. And I think that's super important for anybody, is just, be you. And TCA has certainly fostered that for me.
Oh, I love that. And our goal is to help you create a business that's authentic to you, not just one that you think is going to be successful from looking at other people's channels and things like that. So I think the community who's watching here on YouTube and potentially Instagram, they're going to love your interview today. So let's do a quick introduction to your journey of entrepreneurship.
Oh gosh, so I've been a creative for a really long time, but I kind of have a similar story to you in that you were in the sciences, pharmacy, wearing a lab coat. That's where I came from. I was a biologist working in labs. I was wearing a lab coat, although because I'm slightly quirky, my lab coat had Brainy Smurf painted on the pocket because that's just me.
I love that.
And I was never really happy with that. And I tried to get into graduate school. That didn't pan out. And in the meantime, I was taking cake decorating classes. And I thought, oh, that's fun. So I taught cake decorating at the Michael's stores for a little while. Didn't have children yet, so doing my own thing. And then I found floral design. So I went back to school, got a floral design certificate, worked doing wedding florals, worked in a few flower shops, and then had children. And that, I was a stay-at-home mom, still a stay-at-home mom, because you never stop being a mom, right? And I homeschooled my children. So my girls are now 19 and almost 21. So they're still at home, but they're doing their own thing. And those responsibilities don't really lay on me as heavily. And during COVID time, we wanted to do some home renovations. And I had way too much stuff in the house to be able to do that. So my husband built me this space here. So I now have a studio, and I call it Flutter by Cottage. My whole backyard is all gardens with butterflies and hummingbirds. So that was the inspiration for it. So all of my stuff came out here, and we were able to knock some walls out in the house. And so while all of that was happening, we spent some time here in the studio with my kids. And that was kind of where we revisited the whole calligraphy journey again. Previously, like I said, the wedding florist stuff, I dabbled in that a little bit. It's really draining. It's a very physical job, and it was beautiful, but I spent years either being in a lab coat or doing flowers and being dirty. And I was just kind of over that whole thing. We also have actually owned Urban Winery before. We just recently sold that to our partners here in San Diego. So we did that for, I want to say 5, 6, 7 years, something like that. That was very successful. It's still going. They're doing a great job, keeping it going. We were just ready to move on. I have also had candle making company. It was called Lantern Light Candles. And I did these really cool hurricanes where I would embed people's photos into the wax hurricane. You could put a candle in it, it would glow. I thought they were super cool. And nobody bought them. I still think they're super cool. I did soy candles too, and people loved those. But then you're schlepping all that stuff to craft fairs. That's exhausting. So I just took a break from all that, focused on being a mom. But then during COVID, went back to calligraphy, with the kids and played around with brush calligraphy a little bit. I have that left side of my brain that likes to be happy. And so when I was doing brush calligraphy, it was so non-precise. I had a hard time with each pen acting differently. And so the pointed pen calligraphy was much more my jam because every nib is different, but within that set, it's very precise, and I enjoyed that precision. And so I thought, I've been in the wedding industry. Why don't I do wedding calligraphy? And I found that was actually very difficult to break into. And I took a lot of courses on how to price your stuff. How do you be a wedding calligrapher? How do you network? What do you do here and there? It was overwhelming and frustrating. And then somebody on Instagram mentioned Wandercrafter. And so I went and followed you. And then Kelly reached out to me, and boom, I'm part of TCA.
I love it. Oh my gosh, what a whirlwind. Like, you have literally really done so much. Like, you are such a seasoned artist, seasoned entrepreneur, and the information that you have in your brain is so valuable.
Well, I appreciate that. I like to try to help people, and I like to network with other people, and that's really what's been the best thing for me as far as my statement of like, this is the only creative endeavor that's really worked for me, in the sense that community, that's really been the biggest thing, and being connected to the industry. Right. And having it be collaborative. There's plenty of work for all of us because we all have a completely different set of skills. And sometimes it takes a little bit of time to figure out what those skills are and where you fit. Sometimes that happens faster for some people, and some other people it can take, a longer time. But that's really the whole point about TCA, is just getting plugged in and people helping each other. In this day and age, that's really hard to find.
Yeah, 100%. Especially I find with like creative industries in general, people love to gatekeep and keep that information to themselves because they feel that scarcity mindset where it's like, if one person succeeds, that means I'm not going to. So like now I have to keep all the success and all the tips to myself. But as we have seen, it never works that way. Like, entrepreneurship is really hard to go through by yourself. And the only way to continue growing yourself and growing your business is to learn from other people and to continue to lift everyone up, because if other people win, we win too. Right.
And I have to admit, I'm guilty of that whole scarcity mindset myself. When you finally kind of figure out, this is me, this is what I do, this is my thing, I want to keep it to myself. And I have felt that way before. And once you kind of break out of that and realize that it isn't all about you, which is hard. It's like, I have this skill, I have this thing, and if I give it away and share it with others, it's better. Even if you have like this cool skill and you give it to somebody else, they're still not going to do it the way you do. So you still retain that piece of it that's yours, and then they can take it and make it theirs. And that's just how that whole thing grows and how beauty is made in this world. So
yeah, because you have your own special print. Like, you have your style, you have your personality, your story. That's the thing that sets you apart from all the other artists. So you shouldn't feel afraid of sharing your, technical skills, just because those are going to be learned anyway. What people cannot take away from you, things that people cannot reverse engineer from you and your business, is your personality, your story, and what you can give to the world. So why not embrace those parts and just forget about the other stuff and share it with other people?
Right. And that has taken me a while, to figure that out. I encourage all of the rest of you out there, don't be afraid to share yourself and who you are, and to be you, and give that stuff away and see what happens with it, because somebody else is going to make something beautiful because you shared what you had.
Right, exactly. And then they're going to learn tips and tricks, and they're going to bring it back to you. So it's like paying it forward and creating a more positive cycle versus that negativity and keeping everything to yourself.
Right, exactly.
Oh my gosh, love that. I feel like there's already so many hot tips in the interview, and it's literally been 10 minutes. So you just know the rest of this is going to be so valuable. So tell us, what is your specialty now? Because I know you've done different things in calligraphy and in other ventures. What do you specifically specialize in?
Oh gosh. I mean, sometimes it's like you get requests for things and you go, I guess I could do that. Like, I just had a heat foiling, my first heat foiling live event. And that was kind of something that I just was like, I should be able to do this because I have a wood burner. And I kind of played with it a little bit, got a cool tool, and then put it in a box. And every now and then I pull it out and go, this is a fun thing. Well, and then because I had, optimized my website and had some of that stuff on there, I got a request, and they actually requested for me to engrave on leather journals. And I said, no, you don't really want to do that. I suggest this. And they hired me, and it was awesome, and it was super fun. But as far as my specialty, I think it would probably be better phrased as my passion is what they call bottle painting now. That's something that I've been doing it wasn't called bottle painting back in the day. I was doing it on wine glasses forever ago, and it's really my sister's fault. Shout out to my sister. She was getting married and saw something on PBS with the gal who did all the one-stroke painting on glass and said, I want you to do this because you're my creative sister, and I want a set of this for my wedding gift. And I was like, okay. And at the time, they actually had classes at the Michaels stores on it. I went and took a class, and she still has the wine glasses and the water pitcher or whatever it was that I made. So I thought, well, that's kind of a fun thing. And I did a lot of trial and error. The paints, figuring out at the time they made special paints just for glass. This was years ago. So now the paints are even better than they were back then. I developed my own technique because those paints were so frustrating to use on glass. And so now with the new formulations, it looks amazing. Like, I'm even impressed. I'm like, wow.
Yeah, you're like, wow, my paintings never look so good.
Yeah, nothing ever looked so good. And so that's really something that I really love. And I remember talking with you guys on a coaching call. And because when I first joined TC, I think it was like August of last year. So August 2022, somewhere around there. And then, with Michelle and Juniper Calligraphy, and she was all talking about bottle painting. I was like, oh, that's a thing. Like, I could jump into that right now, because live events was not anywhere on my radar. I was like, no, I'm going to do wedding calligraphy because the pen and the paper and the place cards and the mirrors and all that stuff. And there are a lot of wedding venues here in San Diego. And so I thought, nah, I don't know what I'm going to do. Right. So I'm on the coaching calls and find all these things out. And I thought, oh, that's kind of cool. That's painting on glass. I can do that. So I actually dug out all my old stuff. The paints were horrible. They were so old. I had to go buy all new paint, all new brushes, and just started playing with it. And then I had actually made a connection with a local calligrapher here, and she worked with Sundreams. And it was right around, I went to go see my brother for something up in Ventura. And so I had just had my first lunch with her, just met her. And she contacted me a couple days later, and people were getting ready for holiday stuff. So it was like November. And she said, hey, do you want to do a bottle painting event with Sundreams for, I don't even remember who it was, Dior or something. I was like, yes. And so that was kind of where that all started. And not very many people do it. Honestly, in San Diego, I don't see anybody doing it quite the way I do it. There's one other gal who I've seen kind of at events that Sundreams will, come and hire. I've kind of been kind of the hey, you want to do bottle painting through Sundreams? And so, that's my passion. I love doing that. I actually just recently got a commission to do some of those champagne bottles with the Freixenet brand to paint on those. And I can't wait to post those pictures.
Oh my gosh, that's going to be so cool.
They are amazing. It was such a challenge to paint like the entire bottle because I'll do their events.
Yeah, because they're so
throw
big.
A couple little flowers on there because it's an event. You don't have all day to do it. And so somebody saw that work and they were like, can you do stuff for my mom? And I was like, sure. So now the whole bottle's covered. So it's just been a super fun journey.
Yeah. I love everything that you said about that, because you really started from the very beginning. You've had this passion for so long. You have paints that are maybe a decade old. And you joining the Craft Academy really reinvigorated that. And now that's your specialty. And you're working with these amazing brands now. That makes me honestly so happy because it feels like I'm changing lives, And
Absolutely.
it's just so cool to see your success. And I know you started off with working with the agency, and that was the thing that kind of propelled you into the live event world, which wasn't on your radar before. Are you now booking your own events without the agency?
Yes, I just recently booked with Jo Malone through my own pitching. And so that I've got a couple events with them for Mother's Day. That's the first one that I actually pitched to. And I've never really had an issue talking about myself. So it was relatively easy for me to walk into a Jo Malone boutique and be like, hey, I'm a calligrapher. Here's my card. That's the only place I've done it. I have dreams of walking into Bloomingdale's and Neiman Marcus and doing that kind of thing. But I like to take it in a little more natural approach. If I have a connection or whatever, that cold call type stuff is not really my jam. But
yeah, and
so
that's
the Jo Malone one was interesting. you know,
I think what's really good about this opportunity right now is that you have already done the pitch and now you get to work with them for the first time in May for Mother's Day. That's going to lead to so many more events because the luxury world is very small. Everyone knows each other and they refer people all over. So like the better performance that you can do for these specific companies, that will propel your career even more forward because then your name starts to get out there and you get known for being the expert bottle painter in San Diego, which I think that's where you're headed. It's very clear.
And actually, if you type in, because I worked on some SEO for that, if you type in San Diego bottle painter, I'm number one because nobody's optimizing for that.
Yeah.
but that's kind of,
I
know. I'm super excited about that because I think you're right. I think that is kind of where I'm trying to head.
Yeah. One of the things that we love to do with our interviews is give tactical information for people, especially those who are not in the Craft Academy yet. If you had to give one piece of tactical advice, it could be anything you learned in the Craft Academy, what would that be and what would you tell them?
Oh gosh, I have a list, Rosie.
Pick your most important one.
Oh gosh. I think connecting with your local artists. I mean, if you're not going to do TCA, why wouldn't you do TCA? But if that's not on the menu at the moment, find local artists where you are and just create your own network. I've met a couple of 3 here in San Diego that aren't in TCA that I just reached out to and said, hey, let's do coffee. And everybody has their own set of skills that you can all bounce things off of each other and refer to each other. So that I think is something that's very important so that you don't feel alone. You're in your own little bubble with no direction and you have nobody to ask questions. And that's, I think, the scariest part when you feel alone. So don't feel alone. Yeah. Go find those artists. And if you ping them on, with your DMs and they don't reply back, that's okay. Find somebody else, but get connected. You have to get connected.
That's such a good piece of tactical advice. We talk about the community all the time with the Craft Academy, but if that's not, again, like you said, on the menu or on your radar yet, and maybe you don't feel ready for whatever reason, you can always start small and start local. That's step 1 in building the business. And honestly, making connections, even if they're not in your area, was probably the biggest factor for me too, was having a calligrapher friend that I would talk to every single week and say like, oh, what are you doing with your SEO this time? What is working in your business this week? And then what project are you working on? So like the more information you can get from other people, the better, because you're not making those mistakes by yourself. You have someone that you can collaborate with and hopefully grow your businesses together.
Yeah. And you're not going to know everything that you don't know, right? So sometimes it's just learning from watching that other person. You don't even know what questions you're supposed to ask. And then you realize that they don't know what they don't know either, right? So the one gal that my first connection that got me that bottle painting job with Dior, she texted me yesterday, OMG, and that was it. And I was like, what? And she's like, I just found this old heat foiling tool that I totally hated. And I pulled it out and I did it on a leather journal and look at it now. And I'm like, I haven't even posted about that yet, but it was totally not even related. And so she had this tool that she didn't like. So I said, oh, well, here's the tool I use. And here's the heat foil stamping paper that I use. And you can use a battery pack and make sure you bring this. And she was like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. Right. So, and I was like, who am I to, so everybody has something to bring to the table. Even if you don't think you do, you do.
Yeah, you do. I love that. Absolutely. And again, Lisa is so generous with her knowledge. Like she sometimes will come onto our coaching calls and just like talks about all of her bottle painting experience because we have so many people getting into it these days that everyone has questions. And like, I'm just starting to get into bottle painting and I've worked for, I don't know, maybe 10 events or something so far, but like Lisa is still far beyond any of my experience. So I just let her take the mic and it's like, tell us everything we need to know.
It's that left part of my brain that I'm a planner. So many people ask, what do I bring? What do I bring? When I went to that heat foiling event, my brain was going crazy. I'm like, okay, I'm going to bring the heat foil and the paper, and it is a USB port. So I'm going to bring 2 battery packs. Well, what if I'm near a plug? So I brought 2 extension cords, a little USB port. Well, what if there's a power outage? I brought every paint pen I had.
You brought your own generator.
I brought my own generator. That's a great idea. You have to plan for everything. I mean, plan for the hurricane, the flood, the whatever, because you
the show must go on regardless.
got to bring everything in the toolbox because you're going to be super bummed if you don't have whatever that is. So that, and that just takes time trying to figure out, like, you have to go with, honestly, the worst case scenario, because then you're ready,
Right. Yeah,
but I appreciate
exactly.
that. You're so sweet. I just try to help people. I don't,
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so let's rewind a little bit. We have a lot of people who like watch these interviews and learn from Wondercrafter, but I feel like a lot of people are still really hesitant about investing in themselves and their businesses to propel it forward. What would you say to those people who are still debating on whether they want to make that investment or not? Why did you make that investment?
I think it was that whole alone feeling. There's online courses, right? So you can take different calligraphy classes. There's a handful of pricing classes out there to kind of get your feet wet, kind of started, because you want to value your work, right? And if you don't have those connections with local artists, and even if you do, I find that what I've learned from TCA and pricing yourself and valuing your work, that even some of the local people here, I look at them and I go, no, you should be charging more. Like, why are you, so even within the industry, there's still people who, well, it's just a side hustle for me. It doesn't matter. I can charge whatever I want, whatever. Right. So for me, it was always about being true to the industry. A girlfriend of mine is a wedding florist, and I worked with her on and off over the years. But most recently, that was the most recent position that I left so that I could focus on my calligraphy job. And I was with her for 3 years, and that was all through COVID. So we went through dead for COVID, and then basically like 2 wedding seasons in one, because you had everybody who had postponed and then everybody who booked all smashed, and it was insane. So I really got a chance to watch her and some of the lessons that she learned in the industry, and how to price yourself. How do you position yourself? And am I a luxury florist, or am I an everyday person's florist? Like, where do I want to be? And then I saw the kinds of clients that she had, right? The ones who did pay the money and wanted this big, gorgeous, beautiful thing were not the ones that gave her trouble. It was the people who were, well, I'm looking for a budget florist and I only want to do a small wedding and I only need these little things. They were the ones who were nitpicky, and she was such a wonderful, good-hearted woman. And she wanted everybody to have this beautiful day, which honestly, that's where I got my inspiration for my company name, because she always said that. She always wanted everybody to have a beautiful day. I was so inspired by that statement of hers. I said, you know what? I agree with you. And for me, my take on it was everybody's beautiful day looks different. Right. And so I wanted to cater to that, but I was able to see what kind of clients she had, which ones were troublesome, and I knew what I wanted. I didn't want the people who were going to nickel and dime me over stuff. And because she was an artist, right? Flowers cost a lot, and people don't think about that, and artists get undervalued. That's why it was important to me to be part of a professional group like TCA and see and learn from other people's struggles, how they had overcome those struggles, how they started valuing themselves and not chasing after every job, not saying yes to everything just because they were scared. And I think that's a big thing too, the fear. And I know we have a handful of men in the group, I think.
We have one.
But it's one. Franklin, right? I think is his name.
No, it's Luis.
Oh, okay, gotcha. So as women, I can say that then if it's mostly women, as women, we tend to be really hard on ourselves. And to be part of a community of women that are artists, that we're all like those funny memes or whatever, where you see the person with their chin over the wall, but then they show you the back of the wall and there's 12 people holding that person up, right? Yeah. That's what we are. That's what we are. We're holding each other up. And and we've even had on the coaching calls some people who have had tragedy in their lives, and that affects your business because we're entrepreneurs. And to have a community where you can share that stuff, and not just on the coaching call, because we're all connected like on Instagram and emails and whatever, and you can reach out and say, hey, I'm here for you, whatever it is, I'm praying for you, I'm thinking of you, do you want to get together for coffee, something like that. And so that to me was really important too.
Wow. Yeah. I love that meme. And I love that you brought that up because that's a perfect analogy for what we are. Honestly, like entrepreneurship is so hard, especially when you're doing it by yourself, because you don't know if you're doing it right and you don't know what other people are doing. We actually recently had like a scam that like was going through the entire community for some reason. And we all got reached out to the same person. It was super sketchy. Almost immediately it landed on the Facebook group and we all identified that it was a scam, and we were, able to hopefully prevent any future mishaps from that. So we talked about that on the coaching call yesterday. So there's a lot of things that like go on behind the scenes that most people don't really see or even talk about because they don't have anyone else to kind of bounce ideas off of. So that is just like one really good example on how having a community really helps to uplift you and prevent some mistakes that could happen in your business that could cost you time and money.
Right. Well, and it's a safety thing too, right? I mean, I know that we've had issues with the gals who have gone and engraved for liquor companies, and we've really changed that too because there was a safety issue with kind of sketch neighborhoods. And like, if you were on your own trying to figure that all out, it's terrifying to me. And I just, not having that.
Right. And then it's like, do we put that into the contract as a safety clause? And then, we have lawyers in that group. So we were able to ask them for their feedback and kind of figure out if we still get paid, if we have to leave because of a safety issue. And so there's so many like little things in business that you're not really aware of until you get to that problem. And then you have to figure it out from there. But at least by having the community, we have 130 brains to kind of pick off of and see if anyone's encountered like different situations.
Yeah, it's a safe place to land and it's valuable.
Yay. And you're such an awesome value to the community as well. Like I said, you're just like a wealth of information. You're so giving. I love having you in the community. I'm really grateful that you decided to invest in yourself and me.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. What is next for Lisa McKaig, Beautiful Day Calligraphy? What's the future looking like for you?
Oh gosh. Well, my husband thinks he wants to open up another winery. So this is really, he told me the other day, he said, if this works, if your calligraphy thing is working, he said that actually it takes a lot of pressure off of him because previously he had to keep his other job alongside this side hustle that wasn't supposed to be a side hustle. His plan was to always quit his job and then just invest in the winery. But we had partners and they just wanted to go a different way with it. And so we weren't able to bring it to where we wanted to be. And so he said, if I do this again, we're going to do it on our own. But that's terrifying because he's a chemical engineer. He makes really good money. We have health insurance and all those wonderful things. And if he quits all that, that's scary. So he said, if you can maintain this kind of pace, I was like, I don't know if I can maintain this kind of pace. I'm a little more busy than I care to be at the moment, but
that's not a bad problem to have.
I know, it's not a horrible problem to have. And I know it's seasonal. This is my first year of doing this, so I don't know what the ebb and the flow
what the trends
is yet.
are. Yep.
Yeah, and since the agencies are more retail, seasonal, holiday driven, I don't know that ebb and flow yet. But because I'm getting inquiries off my website for the random one-off things that have zero to do with retail seasons, it's unpredictable. So I told him, I'm like, well, I mean, those inquiries come in and you go, okay, and I might not see anything for 6 months. I can't predict that. So hopefully this is, I would love to maintain this kind of pace. And I'm still getting little increase for some wedding stuff. So I've got like some wedding mirrors I'm doing and some of those kinds of things that are fun. But I have the liberty now to say like, no, I don't want to do that, or that's not a right fit for me, or that kind of thing. And that's the biggest thing. But yes, I think I would love to be known as the premier San Diego bottle painter and just keep doing. I'd like to get more commissions that were like in studio type stuff. I think that would be a really great way to go. And I've been kind of dabbling in offering classes too to my local community. So that's been a little more challenging. I've had a handful that I've offered and like 0 ticket sales, but I think that has more to do with the venues that I chose, and they don't offer classes all the time. I think sometimes it's hard to break into that, but I'm learning.
Gosh. Yeah, everything that you said was like so valuable, and that makes me super excited for your future. Number one, being able to retire your husband, that's the dream. That's like, that makes me so happy because I'm not only impacting your life and your creativity, but I'm also, helping your family out too. Yeah. And like, that makes me so happy so that he can also pursue his own passions.
Right.
And that's so important. Like art in art business is so much more than just creating fancy letters. It's building a dream. It's living your creative life that you've designed for yourself and allowing your family members to do the same. So I'm so happy for you. I'm so happy for your husband. I'm excited for him to not be an engineer anymore and to really go into like the winery business. And then you just becoming like the premier San Diego bottle painter. Like that makes me so excited for you. There's so much on the horizon right now. And I love that you're breaking into different events outside of retail, because people hear brand activations and live events and automatically they think Nordstrom.
Yeah.
It's not like that. Like there's so much more beyond that. Like if you even follow me or anyone on Instagram, you can see that there's so many more events out there that you can do brand activations for. Like we had 2 people from the Craft Academy doing a NARS conference. I recently did the Ferrari event in Washington. Like we have people doing all sorts of influencer events everywhere. So it's not just like you sit at a counter inside a Nordstrom or an Neiman Marcus. Like there's so much more beyond that. And you really do have to think outside the box in order for you to carve that niche out for yourself. And you are really doing that. And I'm honestly so proud of you.
Thank you.
Yay.
And the events are funny because like you can have all the ideas in the world and you're not going to do whatever it is until they come to you. I just did an event for Lowe's, the big, tool store. Yeah. And they approached me and they were doing an event. They had a charity event here in San Diego and it was Top Gun themed. And they just needed somebody to, it was rad. I haven't posted about it yet because I have so many pictures and I want to do like a really
cool. That's so cool.
And so I did call signs on all their tags.
Oh, I love that.
It was so fun. So,
What would be your call sign?
Chaos.
Chaos? Can you give me a call sign? I'm like, nothing's coming to my brain right now.
Oh, I don't know. I was terrible at thinking of them. It was everybody else had the awesome ideas. The motivator. How about that?
The motivator. I love it. I'll take it. Thank you so much for being on here. This was an amazing interview. Where can people find you if they want to learn more about you or learn from you?
Beautiful Day Calligraphy. The Facebook, the Instagram, the Pinterest, the website, it's all Beautiful Day Calligraphy. DM me, email me, contact me on my intake form. My phone number is on my website too. Just leave a message and I'll call you back. I'd love to hear from you.
Yes. And if you want to learn from Lisa, I highly recommend taking a workshop with her. She is, like I said, a wealth of information and she literally does not keep anything to herself. She is such a valuable mentor and she's added so much value to our program and our members. She can do the same for you, so definitely hit her up. I'll link all of that down below in the description so that you can go find her. Thank you so much, Lisa, for coming on. This was amazing and I know this was so educational for everyone else. For anyone who is watching, please like and subscribe if you haven't done so already because you don't want to miss any more of these valuable informations and teaching lessons. Until then, happy engraving, everyone. Bye!